Who would have thought that an Apophis Lance Rafa build would check all of the boxes? This build is phenomenal for bossing, mobbing, survivability, and action skill spam, and the best of all, it is incredibly fun and engaging to use. Makos Buck here, and today let's go over the infinite crit and mag Apophis Rafa. This build is going to be mostly using Rafa's blue tree, and that means that our action skill will be the Apophis Lance. This build performs similar to the Bullet Buddy and Instinto Swaps Piece Cannons build, but I would argue that it is better. We are going to have infinite critical hits, shock damage, max magazine, and overshields while bossing that can be quite literally looped for an infinite amount of time. Alright, with all that said, let's get into it. We'll be on Apophis Lance, which is an offhand arm cannon that fires single piercing shock orbs. You can tap to fire them quickly, or you can hold to charge them, increasing damage radius and projectile speed. Charging also has other benefits depending on skill tree setup, but we're built so that all you have to do is tap fire it. Enemies damaged with Apophis Lance are marked, causing them to take increased damage per mark. We're going to put 42 points into the blue tree, starting with Las Haris. Rafa regenerates ammo while Overdrive is active. Over to the right will be 5 points into the Thrill, which grants us 18% rate of fire and an extra 12% while Overdrive is active. Heading down to Metal Management, and this is a major asset to the build. Whenever we activate or re-trigger our action skill, we consume no ammo for 2 seconds. And over to the left will be El Centro, which is just some quality of life for the build and gives us gun handling and action skill handling while Overdrive is active. This is preference, but I will say without it, your weapon's reticle bloom is going to be the size of your entire screen. Moving down to the bottom sections of the tree, starting on the left with 5 points into Conductivo, which is going to grant us 30% increased status effect chance and 35% increased shock chance. Heading down to 5 points into El Catrin, which grants 40% bonus shock damage and 40% crit damage for 6 seconds after every slide. This also unlocks our 2 skill tree nodes that make this insane play loop possible. 1 point into Awe. Whenever we shock an enemy, all shots fired at that enemy are guaranteed critical hits for 2 seconds. This has 0 cooldown, and we're set up so this just constantly procs. And over to the right from there is 5 points into Fiesta, which grants us infinite Apophis Lance shots whenever we apply a status effect. I'm assuming you can see the absolute wild play loop that is Metal Management, Awe, and Fiesta at this point. We'll be tossing in a Watt Shield too, but we'll get to that. Bottom middle of the tree is going to be 5 points into El Soldado, which grants 30% increased gun damage while Overdrive is active. Bonus is doubled while Rafa is charging Apophis Lance. Currently, you don't have to take advantage of actually charging the Lance shot. That much damage is overkill on any of the content in the game currently. Heading over to the right with our last 5 points in the blue tree, and that is Jaque. Whenever we damage an enemy with a skill, we get a stack of Jaque. For every stack of Jaque, gain increased overdrive bonuses. We get plus 2.5% overdrive bonuses, and it can stack 20 times. You don't need a Capstone for this build, and you really don't need an Augment too, but I slapped on Engorged Boar Augment for increased Apophis Lance projectile speed and radius. With 7 points left, we're heading over to the red tree for 5 points into Shield Bariste. This grants 40% increased shield recharge rate and improved shield recharge delay whenever Overdrive is active. Last 2 points are going into Citiar for an extra 10% to gun damage. Specializations for this build are going to be CQC for a 30% increase to our rate of fire whenever we deal melee damage. This will make more sense when I get to the gear. Hint, we're using Slippy. If you don't want to use Slippy, you can put the best defense here. Riddle you this for a up to 50% stacking gun damage bonus, much like the Striker gear set from The Division. Now with Caffeine, which now works with the blue tree for a 25% action skill cooldown whenever we use a Repkit, and last is Bullet Train so we can hip fire while sprinting and get a free 15% gun damage bonus while walking. Firmware for the build is the meta of 3-piece Deadeye and 2-piece High Caliber for Deadeye's massive crit damage stacks buff and a 10% multiplicative gun damage from 2 pieces of High Caliber. The extra 30% gun accuracy from Deadeye also helps a lot on Rafa too. Gear for the build, starting with the Repkit, is going to be a triple bypass, so we have 3 Repkit charges to help with Apophis Lance always being up. I'm using fire rate on my triple bypass for a 15% increase to rate of fire for 10 seconds on use. As I said earlier, the Ordnance is going to be the Slippy Grenade, which counts as melee damage. This allows you to proc the CQC specialization for a juiced up rate of fire without having to walk up and smack a boss. The absolute perfect shield pairing for the build is obviously Watts for Dinner. This grants us a 12% chance for enemies to drop overshields when we deal damage to them with a full shield. Whenever we have an active overshield, all outgoing damage will also deal 25% shock damage. This pairs perfectly with our skill tree nodes Awe and Fiesta so that we will always be critting, always be dealing a status effect, which then grants us infinite Apophis Lance charges, which then grants us infinite full magazines and ammo because of metal management. As for your Watts for Dinner perks, you will want Amp and Siphon rolled on the shield. Because we can already infinitely crit from the skill tree, there is zero use for the Apophis Lance specific class mod here, so we are going with Devastating Dancer to give us 100% increase to all overdrive bonuses. And we know that overdrive gives us gun damage and movement speed, so Dancer is going to give us even more movement speed and even more gun damage. Dancer can also roll with a +1 to Soltado and a +5 to Termario, which is even more overdrive bonuses for even more damage and movement. Dancer always comes with action skill cooldown rate rolled on it, and you will want a form of weapon damage as your other roll. My main bossing weapon is a shotgun, so I went with shotgun damage. Which brings us to the enhancement. The bossing shotgun is a Deadalus shotgun, so we are going with a Deadalus Purple Enhancement with Accelerator, which cranks up your rate of fire the longer you hold down the trigger. We will get a massive 1% rate of fire per each bullet fired, and that stacks up to 50 times for a 50% rate of fire increase at max stacks. Mine has a triple weapon damage roll on it because, yes, you guessed it, we're going with Bod for bossing. Our Bod is going to be a ceramic Bod. In case you didn't know, Bod is a legendary shotgun that counts as a shotgun, AR, sniper, pistol, and SMG, and will benefit from any damage buffs you have for those weapons. You'll want the Bod to be rolled with Torque Sticky Magazine and a secondary fire SMG mode for the best RPM. Your Bod can be kinetic damage or shock damage. As for mobbing gameplay, we're going with the Katagawa's Revenge set to shock mode. Katagawa is a legendary sniper that can fire shock or fire orbs that float around dealing status damage. The shock orbs will obviously inflict shock to enemies, and when they crit, they spread to nearby enemies. You'll want Katagawa rolled with Jakobs as it's just the best mobbing license. Other notable weapons for this build are a Shock Stellium shotgun with beam tosser on it and the Space Laser Oscar mic roll, or even a Shock Wombo combo. Play loop for this build is going to be throw your Slippy at the boss to proc CQC, pop action skill, pop Repkit, slide for more damage is optional, then hold down Bod's trigger while firing Apophis Lance every second to keep your magazine unlimited. Most bosses only need about 3 to 5 lance shots in them before you can stop firing your action skill and dump the remainder of bod shots before reloading and having stickies explode and absolutely delete any boss in the game. Just a reminder that this entire video is timestamped if you feel like you missed something or want to jump around. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and turn those notifications on. See you next time.